Today we're going to teach you how to do a frontside board slide on a snowboard. If the rail is in front of you, I'm a regular rider facing this way, and you ollie onto it, that is frontside. Whether it's a frontside 50-50 or a frontside board slide, if the rail is behind you and you ollie onto it from your heel edge, that is a backside 50-50 or a backside board slide or backside lip slide. There are a couple essential tricks that you want before you dive into the front board. I believe having a 50-50 on boxes and rails, having a backside board slide on boxes and rails, and maybe even a 50-50 backside 180 is absolutely crucial. Downpouring. Holy. Also, as for your mindset, you should be able to envision the trick and land it over and over and over again 1,000 times. Mindset is everything, confidence is everything, and you want to know the difference between you just being completely scared for no reason and doubting yourself and actually doing a trick that's way past your progression level. We want to ride as often as we can. We want to stay as healthy as we can so that we can get 10,000 hours. Jumping the gun is the easiest way to get hurt. So make sure you have some tricks dialed. Make sure you can envision yourself landing it in your head. Then we can dive into it. The ideal feature for you to practice your first front board on is either a box, maybe 1 to 3 meters long, or a rail that is flat. Skinny round rails are a little bit harder. So any rail that is flat, the wider the better, and the shorter the better. There's also a couple things that you can do, like ollieing over the rail if it's a small one, and shifting your body out, practicing the motion that you're going to be doing and not actually hitting the rail before you commit to locking in. So now for the approach. You want to have your board slightly engaged on an edge, just enough so that you can maintain the direction that you're going. And the direction that you want your board to be is parallel with the rail. If you go on too much of an edge, you'll dig in and your toes might catch when you ollie. And if you're not on enough of an edge, when you ollie, you might slip out. You want your stance to be what they call athletic stance. That means that you're bending at the knees and the ankles and you're squatting down from your hips, but not bending over. This allows your body to be completely balanced and upright. If you bend at the hips, leaning over, your balance is going to be off and you could potentially go too much toe edge, which is going to cause you to slide out, or you're going to be too much heel edge, which is going to make you stick or get caught up when you ollie. As you're about to ollie onto the rail, you want to take your upper body and lean it just enough over the rail so that when you do ollie, your lower body can bring the weight to balance itself out with the upper body and get stacked on top of the rail. If you lean over too much, you'll slide off to the side. And if you don't lean over enough, then you'll just barely make it onto the rail and you'll come off. A crucial tip to get through the whole rail is just before you ollie, take a quick look at the end of the rail, because where you look is where you're gonna go. As for the ollie, you don't have to get crazy. We wanna minimize the amount of impact when we land on the rail. So just get enough ollie to get your nose over the rail and place your foot down gently. And the difference between going to fakie after your front board and pulling it back to regular is all about the upper and the lower body disengagement. When you pop just a little bit, enough to minimize impact, you want to take your upper body and throw it the opposite way that your lower body is going to be going into the board slide. So that way, the whole time you're sliding, you're basically looking underneath your shoulder or your front arm and staring down the rail the way that you're going. If you don't, when you take your front shoulder and you just throw your whole body onto the rail, you're going to land, you're going to be sliding kind of blind, and your body's going to want to keep spinning and you're going to end up going to fakie. Now we're jumping into the most critical parts. When you ollie onto the rail, you need to go on top of the rail. No side jibbing. If you just kind of stick your leg out and you touch it with your front foot, you're going to slide off early, potentially come off early and hit the rail, catch your edge, and it's a recipe for disaster. And if you ollie too far over the rail, the same thing can happen, but the opposite way. There's also two types of grinds. There is a 50-50 where your board is facing 0 degrees, and there is a board slide where your board is facing 90 degrees. This is so critical. When you add the weight of your body and the edging of your metal rail, if you do not go 90 degrees, your edge will catch the rail, it will grip, and if you're going backwards, we won't even talk about it. You'll fly backwards over the rail, and if you're too much on your toes, then you're gonna slide out, and that's gonna be called an MJ, which if you're not Levi Gunsberg and you're not doing it on purpose, this is not ideal. Put your board to 90 degrees, full commitment, full confidence. This is why I said earlier in the beginning that if you ollie over the rail, you can practice shifting 90, making sure your board is straight 90. And once you get better and you actually do lock in and you're going 90 degrees, you can do something called a hot garbage, which you apply a little extra steez and you push it past, but that's when you're light on your toes and you have that ability to add a little flair into the grind. When you're not at 90, it's called a Zeech. And not only does it look weird and it's not cool, but it is one of the most dangerous things that you can do on a snowboard when hitting a rail. There's also a couple ways that you can do a front board. I like to go on my front foot. That is technically a front board. If you push it out and you get on your back foot, that's called a front blunt. You can also go in the middle, which a lot of people like to do as well. Sometimes I do. There's some controversy behind it, but I like putting one foot on the rail and having that be my designated foot, because when your weight is balanced on that foot, I think you have more control and it allows you to pop out of the rail better if you're on one binding. The second most important thing is that when your board lands on the rail, you don't want it to just be flat, but you want it to be flush. What I mean by that is if the rail's flat and you land flat, that's cool. But once you start hitting down rails or kinked rails, the word flush makes a lot more sense, because you can put your board flat on a box or a rail and spin it however you want, as long as you imagine it being two magnets pulling themselves together and spinning. If not, what's gonna happen is what I talked about earlier. You're gonna go on your toe edge or your heel edge. You're either gonna slide out and land with your body on the rail, or you're gonna catch your edge and you're gonna land with your body on the rail. But as long as your board is flat and flush with any rail that you're on, you can make mistakes and you can spin and you can slide and you can do whatever you want and you're gonna be okay. So how do you make your board flush on the rail? Well, first of all, I like having soft, loose boots, which allows my ankle to flex. But if you have tight boots, you also have knees and hips and your whole body weight, which is why it goes back to that athletic stance we talked about in the beginning. When you bend down and you squat down, not at the actual bent over hip way, but you bend down like an athlete, you can see that your knees being bent or fully extended will change the angle of your snowboard. So that's why you want to be loose. Get comfortable in this board slide. You're trying to stay on the rail as long as possible, so loosen up and let gravity take your ankles, your hips, your knees and everything, and just give into it until your board is flat or flush on the rail. So you're still looking under that front arm because, like I said in the beginning, you threw your upper body the opposite way. Some people like to actually look underneath their shoulder. Me, apparently I like to bring my arm super wide back and I kind of look with the shoulder, but you want your shoulder to be pushed back further and your head and your eyes to be able to be looking down the rail where you're going. This is gonna allow you to go and bring the board back to regular and not go to fakie. Because your upper body was thrown the opposite way when you started and you're grinding with your face and your head and your eyes looking down the rail, the natural force of your body, you're fighting the whole time. You can also see where you're going. So when you see that the end of the rail is coming and you're on that front foot, you can pop, give it a little steeze, and then naturally, now that your feet aren't grabbing on the rail, your upper body will come back the way that it originally started and you'll land slightly blind, riding away as clean as possible. You just landed your first front board. So we're gonna run over a recap real quick for you guys. First of all, you want all the proper tricks built up to do this in order of skills. You want to pick the correct feature, which is ideally a box or a flat rail. You want to envision the trick and approach it with full confidence. You want your edge slightly engaged, just enough to lock in and keep your board parallel with the rail. Keep your eye on the end of the rail right before you ollie. Lean a touch over the rail, just a subtle ollie. Throw your upper body in the opposite motion in order not to go to fakie. Make sure you get on top of the rail. Make sure you are exactly 90 degrees and stay loose. Keep the board flush with the angle of the rail by doing the athletic stance, aka bending at the knees and not leaning over at the waist. Keep your vision under that front shoulder, looking at the landing the whole time while you slide, and then wait till the end of the rail approaches and let the natural snap of your upper body combo with the pop out of the rail and land slightly blind like a G. Couple extra tips to make sure that you guys get this proper and as quick as possible. One of them is height. You will get way more laps in and you won't be changing the feature. You'll be super honed into the exact rail with no changing variables and you'll get 10 times the amount of hits. Sometimes when you have a flat down rail, you can do your 50-50 and then pop and just kiss the rail of the front board and not actually lock in. So you get used to the motion and the grind without fully locking in for a long period of time. My favorite thing is if you are doing hot laps, do the trick, the front board on every single feature. Small rails, big rails, flat, down, up, boxes, just get that repetition in. And while it may seem crazy to say, oh, start front boarding and down, flat, down before you have it, that goes against what I said in the beginning. If you listen to all the steps I said and you get on top of the rail and your board is flush and you're locked in and everything is dialed, the worst thing that can happen is your balance is off and you start to slide a little to the left or the right. And once you feel that you're coming off a little bit early, you can pop and get yourself away from the rail. Completely different than half attempting and sticking your foot out onto the rail. That's when you actually will come off early slide and hit the feature, stop dead in your tracks, and just experience some body turbulence in combination with some metal rails. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. Maybe if I missed something, maybe if I was wrong. Let's hear your takes, drop some more tips. If you got anything out of it, do me a favor, share it with your friends, drop a subscribe, and let us know what you want to see in the future. We're trying to help you guys out. We're trying to get you dialed in for this preseason, which is actually here right now. So whether you get yourself a trampoline board, whether you're in the grass outside just practicing the shifting movements, there's a lot of things you can do. You can get extreme benefits from just working out, eating clean, doing all the things that you know is going to get your body in shape so that you're the best version of you. And as much as I want to say, run up the view time on these videos, at some point you got to put the computer down, you got to put the tutorials down, you got to get out there and you got to practice. 10,000 hours. If you start doing it and you start having a little issue, come back to the video, recap again, and then take what you learned from the video and apply it. There's nothing better than just trying it. I learned all these tricks by myself, sometimes watching videos, putting in the time and the groundwork to get it done. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.